down here. Yesterday I was trying to go down to La Playa Palmarcito, but we couldn't figure out how to get down there, so my wife went on a recon mission and figured it out for me. So we're going to try it again. And wanted to thank everybody once again for joining me. Channel is remonetized, so feel free to grab a membership or a pack of memberships for your friends so they can learn a little bit about the true economy, the constitutional currency. And so I've used the last 90 days of my suspension by the Gulag guys over at Google to follow Muñeco64, Mario's channel. So I want to invite all of you guys to definitely join Muñeco64's channel. The guy is amazing. I guess he used to be a trader. I think he grew up in Brazil, if I'm not mistaken. But he's got an American accent, sounds like an Eastern accent. Super nice guy, and he knows so much about the Federal Reserve Ponzi scheme, Jekyll Island debacle. And so I've really been taking time to educate myself. Hey, Let's OTVO, good seeing you, brother. Oh, right on, from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Hell yeah, man. How you doing, dude? So I've taken some time to educate myself more about fiat currency, constitutional currency. And so thanks to Mario, and he's such a good guy. I mean, the guy is just, he's not like me. I'm pretty volatile, you know, I'm pretty volatile guy. I don't really suffer fools lightly, so I've been trying my best to try to learn more about how to be more civil when it comes to being online. And I'm gonna try and be more like Mario, because that's what you want to do, right? Hey, Constitutional Stacker, it is gorgeous here, man. So hold on. So what I'm going to talk about today, while I enjoy Playa La Palmarcito with you, is talk a little bit about the S&P 500, about how everything took off yesterday. By the way, I may have made a huge mistake. I don't know if Mario's around, but I bought a ton of UVIX, probably like $50,000 worth of UVIX. I think I bought in starting at around 680, and then I started trying to catch the falling knife. And I think I bottomed out at 640, and then sure enough, extended hours, it was selling for like 610 or 620. But I'm cashing in on the concept that what's going to end up happening is the S&P 500 is going to crash. I probably should have waited to buy UVIX until things reset a little bit, because there was a buying spree, and the buying spree was based on the Fed admitting that interest rates weren't being affected by the tariffs. And of course, we know that tariffs aren't what cause interest rates, contrary to what they teach you in the Keynesian Marxist-run education system, which is basically propaganda bought and paid for by the Rockefeller family. And I've discussed that in other videos, how they basically imported the Prussian education system over to the United States when the Prussian army ran from Napoleon. And so the King of Prussia needed to institute a propaganda system to brainwash his citizens to support the king no matter what. And that education system was imported here by the Rockefeller family, and shortly thereafter, in 1913, we went to this ridiculous Ponzi scheme that we call the Federal Reserve Bank. And as Muñeco64 or Mario says on his channel, which I recommend you join his channel, the guy is absolutely spot on. He found the old dictionary definition, and I'm paraphrasing, but the old dictionary definition of what inflation is. And inflation is an artificial increase in the currency or monetary system of currency. So an artificial, unnatural increase. And what that does, so when the Fed engages in what's called quantitative easing, they create a bunch of fake money and push it into the system. And we're no longer petrodollar, our money's no longer tied to gold, our currency's no longer tied to gold. And so it's basically based on the promise of the United States government, like someone like an Ocasio-Cortez, telling you that it has value. So it's based on its perceived value. There's nothing that props it up other than the promise of politicians who are in bed with people like Larry Fink, right? So my view on this is very simple. I probably bought into UVIX too soon, and I'm going to show some losses initially. And UVIX is a 2 times leveraged trade that's based upon the S&P 500 going down or the stock market doing poorly. And so you make money when the stock market does bad. So right now it's doing good because the Fed said, well, interest rates aren't being affected, they're low. And since we had a poor jobs report, what's likely happening is we're going to get another rate cut, because that's what they do. This private secret banking cartel decides what our interest rates are going to be. But they were engaged in what's called quantitative tightening before this, which is probably why interest rates were flat. I'm sorry, strike that. Inflation was flat, and that we didn't see an increase in inflation. And of course, we know for our first 130 years of America, when it was most successful, we didn't have an income tax, which is a socialist communist system designed to create a system of class warfare and separate Americans based upon how much they earn. Because it's yours, you earned it, right? But that's not what they teach you in school. They teach you that you're just a capitalist pig. If you make money, you're exploiting the worker. And that's what they teach you in the public school system and in the colleges, which is why the left wants to give your kids a free education. It has nothing to do with educating them, because we know where these guys end up going. They get a job at Starbucks. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. What's going on, Jason? Yeah, Jason's whack. Good seeing you, bro. Yeah, when something becomes more abundant, it loses value. Constitutional stacker. Man, I'm so glad you're here, bro. I really want to get people... See, here's the thing. Look, I'm totally against government abuse and police abuse. But in order to eliminate these things, we have to understand the root cause of why they happen. And it's all about this fiat currency system. Bureaucrats vote far left because they know that these politicians are going to give them pay increases, like 80,000 new IRS agents to come after you and your family and force you to spend $50,000 to $100,000 on an audit, right? And that creates work for them. They have to justify their existence. Well, once we eliminate the fiat currency system and return America to a gold-based currency, a silver-based currency like the Constitution requires, it's my view that we will go back to a constitutional republic, which we don't have anymore. We have basically a democracy. The Greek word demos for mob, where mob rules, where 51% get to decide the fate of the majority. So really quickly, the first part of the video, I do believe that the stock market is going to crash again, like it always does, but sooner than later because of quantitative easing, okay, which means they're printing more fake money, which isn't money, it's Federal Reserve notes of debt that are passed on to your children. And so I believe that my investment in UVIX, even though they say it's a short-term trade and a lot of people lose money on it, I've always made money on, or Federal Reserve notes on UVIX. And yeah, I probably bought in too high, but it is what it is. So give me some comments if you guys know what UVIX is and what you're doing. Yeah, so that's right. Stocks do well when we have quantitative easing because the money is free. However, that's right. Ultimately, here's the problem, constitutional stacker, is that once that happens, we have the quantitative easing, well then the Fed gets to say, oh, well, inflation's high, Trump's tariffs are the reason. But the real reason for inflation, of course we know, is because of the Federal Reserve Bank. They create inflation by creating fake currency. So what'll happen is that's going to tank the stock market. And I say that's probably going to be, sometime, mid-2006. So I'm just going to sit on the UVIX and take the losses as I see them in red on my SEP and just wait. And I'll put some tight sales on them, or maybe I'll just sell covered calls to make up for the loss as the market fluctuates. So that's something, and we can talk about covered calls in another video. And Constitutional Stacker says there very well could be a crash or a significant correction. Look, I think there's going to be a correction on Monday because the stock market went bananas. It's overbought now. So I may sell off some of my UVIX, but I'm not going to buy back into anything anymore, man. I'm just going to sit on it unless we have a significant correction with minor stocks or, like royalty, like Franco Nevada Corporation or Royal Gold. which has been a great play for me. I've made about 100,000 in profit on that so far. And then I'll start buying back in, but I'll be using dollar cost averaging. And unfortunately, I can't take the money out of my SEP to buy gold and silver without paying a significant penalty. But we can talk about that in another video as well. We'll talk about gold-backed Roth IRAs and how you can try to put money out of your SEP into an IRA where it's stored physically. And I think there's Market Sniper, actually, who's also a guest on Muñeco 64 quite a bit. He talks about that and how to get your money offshore and away from all these freaking Marxists who want to take your money, flood the country with illegal alien peasants who are going to vote for them for a free check, which is what the Biden administration was doing, using taxpayer-funded non-governmental organizations, by most accounts, flooding the country with over 20 million illegal aliens and subsidizing their rents. And now, because Trump is getting rid of these illegals, the housing market is starting to crash. Why? Well, because they were using your tax dollars to pay for all their free stuff. And that was propping up the market to make it look like the economy was doing better than it actually is. So let's go ahead and take a walk down to the beach, and then we'll talk about the SDBullion lawsuit. By the way, again, I am a consumer rights attorney in California and Texas, and so I know a lot about personal injury law, class action lawsuits, and about what's going on with the SDBullion lawsuit. So we'll talk about that as we get on our way. So here we go. Good seeing you too, Let's TVO. Sorry, there's somebody down here working. Hola, ¿cómo estás? ¿Todo bien? Excelente. So you can see we got vendors down here selling stuff. Really cool. See, this is a true free market, okay, guys? Unlike Communist California, where you'll have a bunch of people saying that these people are rich and they need to have their money confiscated. Hola, buenos dias. Buenos dias.
Buenos días. ¿Cómo estás?
Bien, bien. YouTube.
Yeah.
Say hola.
Hello.
You speak, habla inglés? No, okay, no problem.
¿Cómo están, amigos?
¿Cómo se llamas?
Mi nombre es Rafael y les invitamos a todos que vengan aquí a la playa del Palmarcito, que tenemos imanes que comenzamos a poner nuestra venta. Imanes muy baratos, 3x5.
Excelente.
Y,
Esto.
y tenemos a nuestro Papa Presidente.
Papa Presidente Bukele, sí, arriba.
Y tenemos pulseras a $2 barato, hasta 3x5. Tenemos también para niños, le tenemos de 7 nudos con ojo de turco a 3x5 y $2.
Excelente.
Y tenemos esferas y toallas, chinas, de todo, variedades. Y las ricas minutas de limón, de sabor y de fruta.
So, más barato aquí. Más barato. Buen precios. Ok. Vaya con Dios.
Gracias, bendiciones.
So you can see, like, people here are super nice, very kind and considerate, no attitude problem, and they're just trying to support their families. Good people. Love them. All right, so here's some more stuff. See, we got some coconuts. And I'm just going to take you on a little tour of this beautiful beach, which is just so precious to me. Not just because El Salvador is beautiful, but because the people are so amazing. I mean, they're just really good people, man. I can't even explain it. Let's go take a look. A lot of different people down here, all different kinds, Europeans. Since Bukele saved this country from the Marxists, communists, and locked up all the criminals, which we know are part of the class warfare system that governments want to create, right? They want to separate people. He just said, I'm going to protect the people who are good and lock up the ones who are bad, unlike what they're doing in California, Communist California. And because of that, this place has become the true paradise that God intended it to be. So look at this, guys. I mean, I know there's some haze from the sun. All right, but you can kind of see, I mean, it's just drop dead beautiful. So I'm just panning. See the volcanic rocks? The country is sitting on about $13 trillion worth of gold. And while our country and others sign treaties to prevent us from drilling for oil and digging for gold, they exclude China, because China pays off all these corrupt politicians like the Clintons, to prevent us from being able to have gas and energy, right? That's what they do. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. So we're forced into all these climate change alarmist nut job treaties that China doesn't have to agree to, and then we buy all of our stuff from China. Well, if any of you have ever been to China, it's one of the most polluted, disgusting places on earth. And that's what ends up happening. So it's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing what's going on. And El Salvador also signed on to the climate change nonsense, and right, because I guess a lot of people were mining gold using mercury, because mercury helps separate the gold and it globs onto it, making it easier to find, and then that goes into the water supply. So what did they do? They just banned mining completely, when instead what should have happened is they should have said, let's come up with an alternative way to help these miners get their gold, because the country needs the resources. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. So that's what happened here in this country. But I think with Bukele coming on board, I think things are going to change significantly, and we're going to be able to save this country. And ultimately, my goal is to move here with my family. As you know, I'm married to a Salvadorian national. I have 2 biracial Salvadorian kids, for all you people who want to accuse me of being racist just because I have light-colored skin, which is the modern public school narrative in the United States. Another reason to homeschool your kids. Homeschool your kids. Get them out of these Marxist-run schools. They don't teach critical thinking. They teach blind obedience to the state. So we want to get your kids out of the public school and the academic colleges. They're ridiculous. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree with that. I agree with you, Constitutional Stacker. He says that the quality of society can be measured by the quality of its money. Well, and we don't have money. We have Federal Reserve notes of debt. But you'll never learn that in the public school system, because it's all propped up based upon a belief. It's like a cult religious belief, starting with their control of the news media by people like George Soros and Larry Fink. All right, so let's get into Grateful Dabs. Good seeing you, brother. Make sure to let everybody know I'm live, guys, and I am remonetized. So if you want to buy some memberships, you want to help me rebuild the channel, I could use it. I mean, they wiped me out. I was doing well enough to where I could economically justify to my wife that I need to go live, right? Because it helped with the family. And of course, when they demonetized me for talking about Big Pharma and stuff like that, their allies over at Google, it just wiped us out. So we're trying really hard to rebuild our presence online. Hey, Chevy, right on, dude. Good seeing you. Yeah, Chad is still on the phone. I see you guys. Hopefully, give me some 5x5s if you can hear me. It looks like I'm having some comms issues here, which is normal because we don't have the best Wi-Fi down here. But yeah, so Constitutional Stacker says, I will say, though, a lot of physical-only guys miss the boat as a result of not understanding that the name of the game is to make profits under paper markets. Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, turn it into assets. You're right. Absolutely right. So this is why, like, the cop watcher community, they really need to understand the underpinnings of what happened to our country. Why do we have corrupt police? Well, because we have a bureaucracy that is very similar to how it was under the kings of England, where the bureaucracy basically have become the modern noblemen. I mean, you've got DMV employees, public school teachers, all the government employees far surpassing the people in income, which is really profit severed from capital, but we'll just say income because that's what most people understand, but far surpassing the intake of capitalists, people who are trying to be entrepreneurs. And they're being told, the kids are being told in the public schools and the colleges that if you have a business, that you're evil, you're exploiting workers. It's right out of the Marxist playbook. But all the government employees are looked at as some kind of superheroes, especially public school teachers, as our education system. They want to eliminate math. They want to eliminate reading because they say it's racist in California and Oregon, for example. And of course, we know the real reason why they want to eliminate all this stuff is because they just want blind obedience to the state. They want a permanent welfare class of voters who vote for these politicians who give out free stuff from your and my paycheck and create more government employees. And so we've got a top-heavy system which will ultimately crash. And why is that? Because all fiat currency eventually, like Bitcoin, will go to zero. So that is ultimately what's happening. Yeah, that's right, Life Under. So let me just, I'm going to go ahead and share my walk with you, and we're going to talk about the SDBullion lawsuit as I'm walking, all right? Okay, so SDBullion, which is a company that sells gold and silver, precious metals, was recently sued in, of course, California, because it has the most liberal anti-business laws that there are, which is another reason why people are fleeing California if they want to continue to make a living and support their family instead of giving their money to Gavin Newsom and all of his cronies. So what's going on is these personal injury attorneys who give an enormous amount of money to the Democrat Party have been able to create laws that are anti-business. And so SDBullion, which sells gold and silver to California, was recently sued under the Lanham Act as well as a Business and Professions Code. Oh gosh, I can't remember the section right now, but basically unfair business practices, okay? And the underpinnings of the lawsuit is that they're engaged in false and deceptive advertising for saying that we offer the lowest prices. Well, a personal injury attorney teamed up with a consumer, and they're now suing SDBullion for this false advertising because he found gold and silver bullion cheaper on another website. And so that's, I believe it's going to become a class action lawsuit. But in essence, there's going to be some problems for SDBullion, which is going to cause the cost of your purchases to go up. So what do I think the chances of success are in this lawsuit? Well, my personal view is that it will have to settle, and that's the goal of most personal injury attorneys, and I can tell you that because I am one, even though I'm getting more into doing defense work. And look, I've got a background in appellate law, criminal defense, so I'm not just a PI lawyer, so I kind of know how the system works a little bit better than most people. I used to extern for the California Court of Appeal, Division 4, the 2nd District, and so I've got a really well-rounded knowledge of how our system works and how judges work. They want you to settle. So my view on the SDBullion lawsuit is that it's a wobbler. I would argue that it's puffery. We're just saying we have the lowest prices as a general rule. The plaintiff's attorney is going to say, well, it doesn't say that on their website. It says lowest prices. So because of that, it's deliberately deceptive and misleading. And so they could move for summary judgment, or summary adjudication. There's a bunch of different methods that the plaintiff can use and the defense can use to try and gain a strategic advantage. But ultimately, the SDBullion lawsuit is an example of why, when you live in a country where the laws are so voluminous that everyone has become an outlaw. That's a prime example. Everyone becomes an outlaw when the laws are so voluminous that nobody can understand them. So everyone's an outlaw. Like Joe Stalin said, show me the man and I'll show you the crime. And that's basically what the politicians and their allies like Soros and these other guys have been able to do, is if you don't go along with their political belief system, they'll use lawfare to come after you. And we know that based on the videos I've seen from SDBullion and other constitutional money people like me, they consider us to be the enemy because we mess with their ability to create fiat currency and game the system, in my opinion. And so I think that that's going to be something that we need to watch. And I'll do a more thorough video on the SDBullion lawsuit and I'll break down the laws. But it doesn't look promising for SDBullion because California is so pro-plaintiff, right, that it's going to be really tough for them to have an outright victory. So that's the way I look at it. Now what I want to show you next are these fishing boats. Check this out. Okay, so here's an example and I'm sure that Life Under will go for this, of quality food. So you see the El Palmarcito boat over here, and this is called the Acup Palmar Dural. So these guys go out when the fishing's right. You see that restaurant right there? A bunch of them. They go out and they catch fish, and they immediately bring them back to these restaurants and cook them up. So there's no frozen fish, none of that stuff. It's all fresh, quality stuff. Look at that, little Enduro, 40 horse. I'm just trying to show you how cool this beach is, man. So good quality food, definitely something the World Economic Forum and guys like Bill Gates don't want, right? They want to feed you garbage loaded with chemicals and feminize all the men with the chemicals, right? Population control, chemicals that cause cancers, that help big pharma. There's no money in a cure, as we know, so they sell drugs to help treat it, which have a side effect, which we're not allowed to talk about if we don't want to get our channels banned. And so, yeah, there's a lot to be said for quality food, Constitutional Stacker. Man, I love having, so we found a natural ally on my channel, which is people who believe in real money. Because people who believe in real money believe that less government means more freedom, and they know the history of our currency system and how it was taken over by central banks, I believe starting with the War of 1812, where England basically forced a central bank on us. And this is the result. We have a fiat currency system, a debt-based system that pits people against each other based on class warfare. But, you know, the true enemy is the central banking system. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. So, okay, so I kind of gave you a little tour of the beach. I'm not going to lie, I am getting really tired. It's super hot. I mean, the sun here just sucks the energy out of you. But I'm going to show you again the beautiful vendors and people trying to support their families out here right on the beach. You see all these cool vendor shops. I wouldn't mind having a job like that. Looks like got the whole family with them. Okay, señor, vaya con Dios. Morning, ladies. Buenos días. So you see I'm walking back up. So does anybody have any questions for me as I start to end my tour of Playa Palmarcito? Looks like we got some Americans down here, down at the beach. Hanging out, some dude with a big beard. I tried to show you these yesterday, the saltwater pools. Really pretty. Yeah, you know, Life Under, I got to tell you, brother, I mean, this place is absolutely amazing. And a guy like you, I think you're like, what, over 6'5", right? And you're into bodybuilding and fitness and good nutrition. I mean, if you were single, you would probably have every 12 on a scale of 1 to 10 señorita after you. It's absolutely beautiful here. Buenos días. See, we got, ooh, man, it's getting hot. All right. Ay, ay, ay. So my first trip, our first stop here was the Sheraton. So I was able to, you know, take my ivermectin every day because, you know, the parasites in the water and whatnot are not what we're accustomed to as Americans. So I haven't gotten sick. Normally when I come down here, I get sick for about a week. But the ivermectin, I believe, has definitely stopped that. So I've been taking zinc, my magnesium, my D3, my copper, all the stuff that you need, right? along with the ivermectin, and I feel amazing. And they have an amazing gym at the Sheraton, so I was able to continue my intensity training. As you can see from my body, I've gotten rid of the belly. I've lost a ton of body fat, and I've just been on a fitness craze, trying to restore my brain and my body and my soul. So here we are, we're back. Yeah, I do. I need a spray bottle. No kidding, man. But look, put in the comments, not in the live ones, but in the actual comment section, any questions that you guys have about constitutional currency, fiat currency, and I'm going to make a good faith effort to get Muñeco64 to come on my channel as a guest. We've been in communication. I really like the guy. I want you guys to like and subscribe to Muñeco64's channel, and I'll drop it in the description so you guys can easily find the link, and let him know that attorney Michael Leline sent you, and start watching his shows. The guy is amazing. Wow, I'm out of energy. So with that being said, guys, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. Semper Fi, do or die. Talk to you.